Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hey Pete, welcome back to Films and Stuff. How are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
I'm great, and I have been looking forward to this episode for quite some time.
For a couple of months at least, right?
Yeah, for a couple of months at least.
Yeah, I think it's rare. It is rare, but I have to say the tables are potentially turning because I think you've been more excited for Marvel releases than I've been lately, which is not shocking because we're both equally strong Marvel fans, but I tend to think that on the fandom scale, I'm maybe one notch above you, but lately, I don't think I have been as excited as you have.
I think generally you may even be more than one notch above me, but I think when it comes to Ant-Man specifically, and the Wasp with my celebrity crush, Evangeline Lilly, I think I'm several notches ahead of you for my love of Ant-Man. So,
Right.
With that as a background, it just came out. You saw it Friday night in London. I saw it Friday night in Dubai, which is opening weekend, right? Worldwide.
Opening weekend.
As we always do before we give our thoughts and do spoilers and stuff, set the scene in terms of how excited you were and what the cinema experience was like in terms of, the number of moviegoers.
Absolutely. So in case you haven't gotten it, listeners, we're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania,
Yes.
otherwise known as the third movie in the Ant-Man Now trilogy.
Volume 3. Yep.
Actually, I saw it the first showing possible, London, 10 a.m. on Friday.
Whoa.
Yeah, I went in there early for a
Matinee
couple
style.
of reasons.
I love it.
I did. And to be honest, that was a mistake.
Why?
Normally, it's not a mistake because at that time of day, the theater is a little quieter. And by a little, I mean very much quieter.
Yeah.
And so two things happen. One, if you got the first show, there's like a 90% chance you're going to skip out on all the trailers and the pre-ads that they run. So, the movie was supposed to start at 10. It started at 10:20. I got to the cinema at 10:15. And there was no ads, nothing. The screen was off, and then they just turned it on, and then the movie started. And so that's the first advantage to the first showing.
No foreplay.
And that's absolutely fine. So that's the first advantage. And the second advantage is that the only people who typically go to those shows are the dedicated fans, one, and two, fellow reviewers.
Yeah.
However, this week in the UK is half term. So the cinema was actually quite busy with students and kids, exactly. And the problem with cinema is that when all else fails, it is the cheapest form of daycare that you can get.
Yeah.
Inevitably, a haggard mom or dad will bring like 6 or 7 of their kids and, their neighbors' kids and, their friends and so forth. And that's kind of what happened in this one as well. So that was a bit annoying, but it is what it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
So again, surprising, 10 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning show, and the theater was like maybe 50 people, 40, 50 people. So it wasn't as empty as I was hoping it would be. How about you? You saw it in the evening, so you saw it prime time.
Yeah, so Friday night is, that's date night, right? That's really movie night. I booked on a Tuesday, and I worked myself into a lather. I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to get a good seat. I don't know why. I anticipated everyone in Dubai was as enthusiastic to see this as I was. I booked on a Tuesday, and I was worried that I wouldn't have a seat, and everything was available. And I went on Friday at 10:45 p.m., which is, I have to say, that's pretty prime MCU fan territory. That's pretty prime, date night territory, opening weekend. I kind of would have expected it would have been packed. That should have been the most packed showing of the movie ever. And in a cinema that has a capacity of, let's say, 80, of which, kind of 40 are prime seats, there were 10 to 12 people maximum.
What?
Yeah, so that's a pretty low. You know what? It definitely wasn't more than 12. If it would have been 8, I probably would have believed you, but I think it was like 10 to 12. So that's a pretty low turnout, I thought. And
can I ask you a tangent?
Tangent away.
All right. Picture the scenario. Yeah. It's date night.
Yeah.
Ethan's got a hot date lined up. He's going to see a movie with his date.
Yeah.
He's got 2 options. Do you A, go for dinner at 8 and then watch a 10:30 show? Or do you go to the 8 p.m. show and then catch dinner at 10?
I would say it goes dinner and movie. And I think the reason is, I think that's kind of more traditional, although it could make you kind of rush dinner since, the movie time is not fungible. But the other way I see it is that if you go to the cinema before dinner, you're probably hungry. You and your girlfriend are going to load up on nachos and popcorn and all the other kind of like junk food that's not healthy for you. Then you're going to go to dinner and you're not going to be hungry at all. So I would expect it would go dinner and movie, and that you'd leave kind of plenty of time, between the dinner and the movie, so that you can make that transition. And the place that I went to, the cinema, was a very good place where they could have gone to dinner, like in that same kind of area complex, and walked directly to the cinema. They didn't need to drive or repark or, do any logistics. So I would have expected it would have gone, like 9 o'clock dinner, 8:30 dinner, straight into the 10:45 movie. Apparently that wasn't the case.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I would prefer the other way around, actually.
Movie and then dinner.
Movie and then dinner.
It definitely gives you a lot of conversation. I think the flip side is that you've got built-in conversation, and you're not like checking your watch to make sure you're not running too early, you're not running too late. So it does take a lot of the timing pressure off of you. I agree. You just need to, I'm a huge popcorn fan. I would not want to go to dinner and be like, oh man, I'm not hungry at all. I just ate a huge tub of popcorn, why are we here?
You would need to exert self-control. Fair enough. Sorry. Yeah. I just wondered, but all right, go on.
So as I mentioned, I loved Ant-Man. I thought the first Ant-Man, which I was very skeptical about. This is in 2015, right? That's 8 years ago. I was skeptical, what kind of superhero movie do we need for Ant-Man? And I was pleasantly surprised. And then I have to say, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think, was one of the most watchable MCU films, to date. I don't know how many we're up to now, 23 or so.
31.
I thought that, oh my gosh, 31. I think of the 31, same thing. If Ethan has, a date and he's cooking at home and, his date is like, hey, I want to watch a movie. I say, great, choose whatever you want. I've got Disney, right? If you were to look at some of the movies, there's some that I would love to watch again. There are some that I do not want to see again, right? Yeah. So, for example, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I've seen that more than once. I would absolutely watch that again. I think that's a super funny, heartwarming, good action. Everything about that movie, I think, just hits right. Michael Pena was fantastic. T.I. was in it. Everything about that movie is great. There's some other movies, like, for example, Thor, Love and Thunder. I'd be like, nah, I've seen that. What else do you want to see, right? Spider-Man.
Yep, I totally agree.
Like, oh, maybe Spider-Man, Even I'd go for an old Iron Man, but there's some that I'm not really that enthusiastic about seeing again. I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp was super rewatchable.
I think the real reason for that, and I agree with you. I tend to agree with you, especially for Ant-Man 1 and to a less extent for 2, but in the same vein, I agree with you in the sense that the reason Ant-Man 1 and 2 worked particularly well for me was that even though they were in an established universe of the MCU, the films were decidedly low stakes. They were just about Ant-Man. They weren't about Ant-Man and trying to stop Iron Man or trying to, help Captain America, etc. It was just a very low stakes movie. The first one was really like a heist movie, right? A comedic heist.
That's right.
The second one was kind of a variation of that, but also was a very, it was kind of just like, it was a rescue movie disguised as a heist movie.
Yes.
Right? And it was just, I'm not saying, and don't take this the wrong way, listeners, but like, if Ant-Man failed in any one of those movies, it didn't have wider repercussions to the MCU. And by succeeding, he didn't have wider repercussions to the MCU. That's what I mean by low stakes, in the sense that it was a very insulated story. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you no longer have that baggage of having to watch 30 movies before to understand what's going to happen in this one. There's some clear references, of course, like you see the Avengers headquarters in Ant-Man 1. You get the reference to the Captain America fight in the airport in Germany in Ant-Man 2. Of course, that's the whole point of being a part of the cinematic universe. Right. But it's disconnected enough that you're just like, if I watch this on its own with a girlfriend or with my mom or with my family and friends, I don't need to hit pause and explain 30 minutes of preamble as to why this is important or why this makes sense.
That's right. There's something else. Not only were the stakes small, but the whole being of Ant-Man is his size. And you saw a lot of the action sequences and a lot of the comedy centered around his size. So remember Ant-Man 1, remember there was like the Thomas the Train scene, right?
Yep.
Remember in Ant-Man 2, they had like the Pez dispenser and how like big it became. Like there was situational comedy based on the size. And we'll get to it in a moment. But this Quantumania size was totally
irrelevant.
100% irrelevant.
That's not just in terms of, them scaling up to become gigantic. Yeah. That was also the same for them scaling down to become minuscule. Yeah. Because when you're in the quantum realm, everything's minuscule.
Yeah. And so I've got a comment about that and I'll get to it. Yep.
Which is, you're right. It becomes weird, right? Yeah. How do you shrink in the quantum universe? Yeah, it's weird.
Because there's a scene, remember, and Paul Rudd was hugging his daughter Cassie when they were both allegedly big.
Giant, yeah.
And he said something, I feel like I'm hugging a Sasquatch. But there's
Godzilla.
Godzilla. I feel like I'm hugging Godzilla. But there's no context to that. They were equal heights, right? Like normal human.
And there was no reference point. Yes, daughter, that's really good.
No reference point.
Yes.
And I was like, that just, why would you feel like that? It would be different if Ant-Man were small and his daughter were big and he could say that. But they were the same size, like typical father-daughter size. It just, the whole concept of Ant-Man being small and exceptionally powerful for his size was made irrelevant by this movie. And you said the stakes were small, but the idea of his natural or his super gift is totally irrelevant in this film. And that's where I think we're going to get when we start now breaking this down. My level of enthusiasm for this film based on 1 and 2 was like through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I came away saying that was a pretty good sci-fi film. It definitely wasn't an Ant-Man film. And it wasn't, I felt more like I watched Dune or Star Wars Attack of the Clones. I'm so glad you said
that.
Right?
I'm so glad you said that.
It seemed more like a sci-fi movie than it did. I was watching MCU. And it was a pretty good sci-fi movie, but absolutely it wasn't an it wasn't
Ant-Man
a
movie.
fun experience.
I'll tell you. So that was the first note I made as soon as I got out of the cinema. Act 1 was quite possibly the best depiction of a Star Wars, non-Star Wars show that I've seen outside of the Star Wars universe. It really, you know, when you see them walking through the Quantum City and you see them, by the way, if you haven't figured it out, spoiler alert, when you see Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Evangeline Lilly, after they've been split up from Scott and Cassie, they flag down these like quote unquote Tusken Raiders. First of all, they looked like Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
Then you see them fly into that city on the back of that animal, and then they start walking through that city where, you know, even Michael Douglas is like, oh my God, that looks like a giant piece of broccoli.
Yeah.
And, you know, it felt
It was a Star Wars
like
canteen.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
It felt like they were walking towards the cantina. It felt like they were in Mos Eisley or in any one of the other big cities with all the weird alien creatures and with all the
bartender
different locales,
with a weird drink. Yeah.
with the weird drinks. It totally felt like Star Wars. In fact, and this is going to be very controversial, I think that this was a better Star Wars Act 1 than some of the later Star Wars shows that we've seen.
I don't think anyone's going to declare war on you for that statement. There may be some disagreement, but I don't think anyone's so vehemently opposed to what you're saying. I agree. There was a lot of, I mean, it's Disney, but there was a lot of similarity. I thought towards the end, when you saw Kang and his army, like all the drones lit up and all kind of like the hover vehicles, you know, kind of, for me,
Attack of the Clones,
I thought absolutely that was an Attack of the Clones scene. I mean,
100%.
it almost, I would not be surprised if someone could do like a side-by-side overlay and it's kind of the same setup, the same formation, the same buildings. They've just kind of like changed a little bit of the configuration or the shapes and the imagery. But I feel like someone from the art department cheated and said, hey, why are we reinventing the wheel? Let's just repurpose this and make the buildings a little bit round. We'll make the drone, or we'll make the clones with some rounded blue helmets. Yeah. And presto changeo, you know, we've got a brand new movie scene.
No, I'm with you. There are definitely parts where you can see that this is more Disney than it is MCU.
Yeah.
And of course, they're the same thing, but at the same time, it didn't feel MCU-ish at times.
So how do you, we're getting into our ratings of the movie. Then let's break down the plot and stuff. But like, what was your overall impression when you left the cinema?
Okay, so my immediate impression was that's a fun movie, but I wasn't in love with it. I gotta say that, like, this is one of the strongest cases of mixed feelings. And if you had to push me, do you like it or dislike it? I would fall on the side of liking it, but only because of Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. I don't think I would say I loved it. I would say that, you know, on a scale of, on our scale of skip, wait for streaming, or must watch in the cinemas, this is a real strong wait for streaming for me.
Yeah.
And you know, if you force me to say I'm not waiting for streaming, am I skipping this or am I watching it in the cinema? I would say you're better off watching it than you're not. But I really think this is one that, you know, if you don't have time because you've got kids, because you've got work, you've got a lot on, you're not going to hurt yourself. In fact, and in terms of spoilers, there aren't that many spoilers. You can wait the 16 weeks for it to come on to Disney Plus and watch it then.
I agree. I think you also need to really understand. I mean, this isn't a standalone film, right? As you mentioned, the second Ant-Man was kind of a heist film or a chasing film. This one, you need context about MCU. If you don't have that context, you can watch the action or the fight sequences, but to be honest, you're not really going to understand it. And even like the the action sequences are almost entirely CGI now. There's very little live action, and they're not difficult to follow, but they're basically like very long montages of flying through different shards of glass or very small molecule looking things. You know, it's kind of lost its like
I will say
novelty.
I liked that probability sequence. I thought that was unique.
Yeah.
I really liked that, where he goes down into the subatomic quantum core and he has to try to work for Kang, and you know there's like an infinite number of Scots there with him. And I loved how that resolved itself, right? Because they were fighting against each other, and then when they all realized they were doing it for Cassie, all of a sudden they start working together, because that is genuinely the one thing they all want, right? I thought that was a really good way of resolving that fight without it becoming like, you know, someone has to come and save him externally. That was him not thinking his way out of it, but that was him just realizing, hey, listen, we have to work together because this is the only way we're going to save Cassie from Kang.
I agree. So let's start at the beginning of this movie and go through some of the kind of the plot and
good idea.
And talk our way through it. So this obviously starts as a very good, feel good, kind of typical Paul Rudd. Everything is happy and joyous type setting. And then things start to go badly, I thought, for two reasons. One, his daughter Cassie, who's now all grown up and obviously is going to be a much bigger part of this going forward, although she needs some type of nickname. She's a deviant, right? And I think we've seen this all the way back to like Terminator 2, where it's always the kid kind of being the rebel, getting in trouble, getting arrested, getting thrown into jail. But deep down, they're really smart and they've got a good heart, right?
But for a good reason. She's not a deviant because she's bad and rebellious. She's being rebellious because she sees there's inequality. You know, this is like the stereotype, which is like, I'm doing this because if I don't do it, who will? I'm standing up for homeless people. I'm standing up for the disenfranchised. She's not like, I'm a rebel because I want to steal money and do that kind of thing. But
I think
yes,
it's a weak way out of it. You know,
it is, but it's what you'd expect for someone who they want to set up as a hero. Is she fights for the little guy?
I mean, I can see that. I think that there's a better way to do it, though. For me, because we've seen the deviant time and time again, I think it's not interesting, and I really do have this problem when people do kind of bad things. She's kind of rude to the cops. She shrunk their cop car. I thought the better way would be she's inspired by her father. She wants desperately to like follow in, you know, his footsteps and Hope Van Dyne's footsteps, right? And she sees herself as kind of like a superhero in the making. And her father, you know, and Hope are like, slow down. Like, you're still young. It's too dangerous. This isn't for you yet. I would have liked to have seen her be like a little bit more like the Archer from MCU. What's his name?
Hawkeye?
Yeah. What's a lady in Hawkeye?
Haley Steinfeld?
Yes. Remember Haley Steinfeld? Like, she's like trying to be the superhero even when she's not ready yet, you know?
Yep.
She wasn't necessarily like a deviant. It was just that she was starting small and she wasn't really ready to be.
She was kind of like a rebel.
She was a rebel, but she saw herself as kind of like a vigilante, and she wanted to be the next Hawkeye. I thought it would have been better for Cassie to kind of be, you know, a want-to-be following in her father and Hope's footsteps, and, you know, her family was kind of slowing her down. So this is my kind of problem number one. It's not fatal to the story, but I'm just saying I thought that would have been more compelling. Problem number two, the same trope. Very young teenager who happens to be a quantum genius, building all these things in the basement. I'm sick and
tired of this trope.
Come on.
And this is an MCU trope, by the way. We saw it in Ms. Marvel. We saw it. We've seen it here. We saw it with Shuri in Black Panther.
I mean,
we saw it with Ironheart in Black Panther.
So
I'm tired of it.
And hard. You know, Hank is supposedly this eminent scientist who even has struggled with this himself. But then his granddaughter, who's kind of 15, apparently isn't even going to school because she's may or may not be a good-hearted deviant, just kind of goes into the basement with whatever tools he has and somehow creates like this quantum satellite, you know? It's just barf, honestly. I know it's a movie. I know it's not real. I know everything has to be exaggerated. But again, I thought there's way better ways to do this than have me believe that a 15-year-old is suddenly this incredible quantum genius.
What would have been great is that, like her father before, who had hacked into another company's computer system to reveal information about fraudulent activity, is if she had hacked into somebody else's company to steal that tech.
Yeah.
And then she uses that and she tries to pass that off as her own. I think
agree.
that would have been much stronger, which is to say, hey, look, I am a hacker, like my dad before me, but I'm not as smart as him. Yeah. But I'm going to try to play it off as I am because I want him and I want Hope and I want my whole family to be proud of me. And I'm going to steal something I don't really understand. I'm going to copy it badly. And that's going to be the thing that gets me into this mess. That, I think, would have been a way more humbling thing.
I agree. That's my issue number 2. And then my third issue is a little bit more pervasive, which is when the satellite signal was identified, somehow the entire family gets sucked into the quantum realm. I thought, and then the rest of the movie takes place in the quantum realm. Nothing else is on Earth as we know it. I thought it would have been a little bit more interesting if they would have been, kind of sucked into the quantum realm, but the quantum realm would have somehow been like encased there. And then Michael Pena and T.I. and that group would have come in and they would have seen the ant farm. And it would have been one of those things kind of like Inception where they're carrying like the suitcase or the shrunken ant city or whatever it is.
Oh, that would have been great.
Or
they're the external support from outside.
And then maybe someone else is trying to steal it. It gets turned upside down and everything gets shaken all about. I just thought
that is a fantastic idea, by the way. That's so good.
To do more of like a link to the real world. You could have made so many then funny. I just feel like there could have been a lot more comedic plot. And especially I want to work Michael Pena into this because he and T.I. were so good. To cut them out.
I was so disappointed that they weren't even a part of this, by the way.
They carried that second movie. They were integral.
They were so good because in the moments, not where everything seemed down, but like in moments of seriousness, they brought such good levity.
Such good levity.
I mean, the simplest scene in the first one is when they're in the van at the end and they're like, back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up, because they see all the FBI agents there and they're just like, okay, we're a bunch of criminals. We should probably not be here.
He's in a bad place. No, physically, where is he?
Yeah, exactly. All these little...
I know.
They are just one-liners, but they add so much to the movie.
I know. And that I feel was really missing is some type of link. Look, we talk about the mom index all the time. Patent pending. It's too much in the quantum realm, I think, to keep a lot of people's interest. If you would have had that relationship with kind of San Francisco and all the different things that are going on in San Francisco and all the other kind of like drama in San Francisco, I think that would have been a very good link to keep the audience a little bit more engaged, right? And if Michael Pena was responsible for kind of transporting this ant farm from here to there and it got shaken all about, and he's talking to Scott, through some headset or something, I felt like that would have really added a really nice layer to this film because it's hard to... There's just no context for their size, no context for time.
Let me give you a slight modification to that. So we saw a little bit of that in the second Ant-Man movie, right? Where we see that they're shrunk down and they're working regular size versus shrunken size. Right. And they're both trying to achieve different objectives by getting the building to whatever location, etc.
Yes.
What if, and they didn't use this except as kind of like a magic switch, what if instead of a location-based thing, it was a time-based thing? Because remember, in the quantum realm, there's that time dilation effect.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we see Michael Pena moving at like 1/10 the speed or
Oh,
1/100th the speed. So it's no longer
like Interstellar.
It's not just about
Yes.
So it's not just about what's going on in the real world versus in the quantum realm in real time, but it's also about that in like you see that Michael Pena is working frantically, for example, up there to try to send, weapons, or I'm being specious, or, some help from the real world to the quantum realm.
Right.
But inside you see them, like you see a very slow motion punch of Kang hitting Scott Lang in the face, and you can see the ripples in his face or vice versa. Just to amplify this idea of the
that dichotomy is so
time.
powerful, right?
Exactly. Because we've seen the dichotomy between size in the first two movies. Now we get to see it not just in terms of size, but also in terms of time. Oh, I think that would have been great.
I agree. I mean, I think back to, I think it was Inception. Remember, like they had the guys in the van. Remember, and you saw the van
slow motion
fall
off the cliff.
Falling off the cliff, which was taking like 10 minutes of movie time. But in real life, then the guys were in the hotel, or I can't remember if they're at like the ski lodge or whatever, and things are going in like
that's right.
So
and then the beauty was that at the very end of that, you see it happen in real time, and then it's like that.
Yes,
it was a 3-second fall.
Everything snapped.
But you saw
together.
in the van it was 10 minutes, and in the hotel it was an hour. Or whatever the ratio was. I'm talking about my butt, but still,
remember there's the kick. There was the kick.
The kick that all had to match along with the Edith Piaf song. Exactly. And I'm not saying you have to copy it, but when you've got Inception...
That would have been so cool, right?
It would have been great to see like, okay, how do we... Yeah, all right, Scott, how do I make sure that I give this to you in the right time? I know. Play my favorite track in real world, and when it gets to the bass line of this song, hit it.
Yeah. Like you can imagine that like Michael Pena's driving... And like there's this like fast playing like Spanish music, and then you cut to like the quantum realm, and everything's in like slow motion, and it cuts back and forth.
Exactly.
So funny, right?
So it would, and it not just funny. It would be really. That's what would give us as the viewers a sense of an anchor and context. Exactly. Because right now, as you rightly said, without an anchor or reference point. Like when both of them are gigantic, and there was literally not even a building that they could stand next to. Like even if they had just put the tower next to them, that would have at least given a size of scope. I mean, what would have been hilarious is if the two of them were hugging, and then you see Michael Douglas come up and hug Cassie's ankle and be like, "Oh, now I'm the one who feels like I'm hugging Godzilla."
I agree.
That would have been way funnier. Because one thing that they did do and they kind of nailed was Michael Douglas was hilarious in that first act, right? When he's dealing with Bill, what's his face?
Bill Murray. And,
they're doing that interplay.
Lord Krygon.
Michael Douglas was funny. Like, he wasn't funny. His role wasn't to be the hilarious one in the first two movies, but he had one or two lines that were good quips. This could have been something similar here as well.
Yeah, I love Michael Douglas. Like I have legitimate bro crush on him from Wall Street and The Game. Less so his Hank character. And I think they just kind of like don't really portray him right. He's always wearing like kind of flannels. His goatee, I think, is like way too bushy. It's
kind of like a tech bro.
Yeah,
he's like an old tech bro in San Francisco.
I don't love his character, but I agree. They definitely tried to give him a little bit more comedic material in this one, right? They tried to put his hands in a steering mechanism. They tried to make him a little bit jealous of Bill Murray. Like, it was better. I still don't think he nailed that role the way Michelle Pfeiffer, for example, nailed her role. Like, so good.
I gotta say, like, I walked out of that cinema, I had a crush on both of them all over again. Like, Michael Douglas has always been a handsome guy, and Michelle Pfeiffer has always been a beautiful actor. But, like, I walked out of that, and I was just like, man, I would watch a movie with the two of them looking the way they did in this movie all day long. They were so good. I was really pleased with them.
I thought Pfeiffer or Diane Lane, I thought those two both would have carried that role like no one else could have. Only those two, I think, could have done that. Douglas has a little bit of way to go. I thought that Paul Rudd was solid, but are we ready to talk about the crime that was committed? Evangeline
Is it against a certain
Lilly,
someone's barber?
why did she cut her hair? I mean, she is really my celebrity crush who could do no wrong. But I felt like not just her hair, but they really kind of minimized her in this film.
She got the short,
Ant-Man and the
she
Wasp.
got the short stick. Yeah. Well, so they never called her that, but if I remember correctly, and please, if you've read the comics, let us know in the comments below. But I actually think that in the comics, Cassie becomes the new Wasp.
Maybe.
So I think that could be their cop-out, even though they never referred to her as that. I don't know. I thought that she got the short end of the stick in this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
for a movie where she's supposed to be the co-lead, especially in terms of the title, she was kind of a non-factor, right? I mean, she's still kicking ass. She's still the most able out of everyone in terms of fighting, and she gets the glory of running her own business, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of the movie plot, really weak. I thought she really
totally
got
agree.
the short end of the stick.
I thought she got this even at the beginning. Okay, yes, she's now has her own company, but it was just a montage kind of showing her sitting at a desk,
accepting an award, sitting at a desk. Yeah,
like that's not great. And then I felt the rest of the movie, her line was, "What aren't you telling me, Mom? But wait, what don't we know? Or what are you hiding?" Like I felt like that was her only line. Then kind of at the end, she came in and she saved Scott, like both when he was in the whatever.
Oh, we have to talk about this, by the way.
Yeah.
This was not where I expected the movie to end. I was quite, I don't want to say disappointed, but slightly annoyed with the opportunity lost, because I think what would have been a better ending would have been that
I thought they were going to get caught
stuck in the quantum realm.
Yep.
And I thought that would have been a fantastic way to end the movie, because I thought that was the whole point of him destroying that power core, was that he wasn't able to activate the portal.
Yes.
And he did that knowing that he was going to be stuck in there. And then literally 10 seconds later, Cassie opens up another portal, or somebody opens up another portal, and they escape.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been way better where he was just like, okay, I mean, I'm stuck here now. And it would have been great if it was the two of them stuck there.
I agree.
And then in Avengers 4, all of a sudden, 5 years down the line in the movies universe, or 3 years in the real world for us, all of a sudden they come in to save the day.
Totally agree.
I think that would have been great.
Totally agree. Just like Hulk was on Ragnarok, right?
Yeah,
and we lost track of Hulk, and then suddenly he appears like, oh, that's right, he's still there.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I thought either Rudd was going to be stuck by himself, or I thought it was going to be him and Lily who are going to be stuck. But I agree. I was a little bit like, it just kind of wrapped itself up so nicely. Like, okay, well, everything's solved now. We got rid of Kang, and we, got back home, and everything's kind of back to normal. And then you see
one ominous voiceover later, and that's it. Really, the movie ends almost abruptly there.
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't know. I just thought it would have been interesting. I saw a trailer before we saw the movie a couple weeks ago, and I thought that what was going to happen was that Scott was going to end up working with Kang. That was what the trailer seemed to be implying, or at least that's what I inferred, was that Scott was going to work with Kang only to have Kang backstab him. That's what I thought. And in this case, that wasn't the thing at all. He was doing it because he was being coerced and he was being blackmailed into it. I think that would have been a stronger story, is that if Scott was the one who basically says, look, I lost 5 years because Cassie made a point of saying that earlier, right? Is that they lost 5 years.
Yeah.
And so you can tell that even though everything's okay now, I think it was eating away at him that he had lost those 5 years through no fault of his own, by the way, which is another thing that annoys me in terms of practical parenting. Like, even the kids got to be smart enough to understand that it's not his fault that she lost 5 years of of her dad, right?
Right.
He was not there. I think it's kind of BS, but fine. Let's pull it this way. I think it was just the easier way out.
While we're on that, I think it's important now we turn a little bit to Kang, because this is really what we are supposed to take away from this movie. The opening scene, I thought, was what I remember from Ant-Man and Wasp, was that Michelle Pfeiffer was kind of in this very flowery patch, right? When Michael Douglas took his spaceship and he picked her up and then they got out of there, right?
Yep.
So we see at the beginning of this movie, we know how she got into the quantum realm, but we don't see where she first ended. But we see her kind of like a exiled Jedi, for example, right? Where she's got apparently
her farm.
These 2 horses thingies drinking out of a trough, and she's just kind of living in a cave with a hoodie on. And then she sees this craft, crash, and she goes to see who it is. It's Kang, blah, 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 blah. All that I can probably maybe get my head around, right? Except that she still has her Ant-Man-like suit, but we don't really see her wearing that. And 2, now we know that wherever they are, the quantum realm is heavily, heavily populated by people, right? Or by things. Why hasn't she run into any of them? It was only after she split up with Kang that she decided to explore a little bit, and obviously she knows everybody on that planet. She's like the social butterfly, right? So it's really weird to me that at the beginning, where she's been there for who knows how many years, she is just alone, living like a nomad. That's it.
I think that was a plot device. I don't think that was, I think that was just explained away in the sense that she's gotten there. She's been in the quantum realm for 30 years. She's just kind of living her own life. And then she realizes that with Kang, she's able to potentially get out of here. In the last minute, she realizes why Kang is there. It's because he's been exiled by all the other Kangs for being an evil jerk. And so she has to stop him. I take your point. I don't think it's as big a plot hole. I think it is a small plot hole, but I think it's one that you can kind of gloss over. It's kind of just a storytelling trope.
Because everybody knows her, right? I mean, everyone says Janet, and everybody knows Janet, which means post-Kang, right? After she sabotaged his ship, where did she go? And she must have been going everywhere, visiting everybody and getting to know everybody, right?
My takeaway from it was after she helps Kang, she spends years as a part of the resistance trying to stop him. And that's where she meets everybody. That's a very simplistic way of explaining away that supposed plot hole. Yeah. And that's fine. I don't think it's a major enough problem. Going back to Kang, I really liked Jonathan Majors.
I agree. He did an excellent job in this role, right?
I think Kang was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that as a bad guy, he is one of the more nuanced villains we've seen in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Unlike Loki, where you can kind of understand his motivations, you kind of saw that in Loki season 1. So this is the second iteration that we've seen of Kang. And by the end of the movie, they seem to be implying that Kang is dead. I don't think he is.
I don't think so either.
I think he's just gotten shrunk again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'll pop back up.
Yeah.
I think that, the mid-credit sequence that we saw was you see the rest of the other Kangs getting together to try to figure out what to do next. Mm-hmm. And that's basically going to be what kicks off the wars for the multiverse. Fine. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is that this is the second version of Kang that we've seen. And this is also the second version of Kang that we've seen, quote unquote, die. In Loki season 1, we're introduced to Kang towards the end of the season. And then we see him die at the hands of Loki, or Sylvie, Loki's variant. And then in this one, we see him, quote unquote, die, to be determined. But still, at least for the sake of this movie, he's considered dead. How many more versions of Kangs are we going to see? I don't know. They all have different personalities. I liked the Kang that we saw in Loki, who's supposed to be the quote-unquote first Kang to realize there's a multiverse. I also liked this version of Kang because he had the same idea as the Loki Kang, which was we have multiverses, and these multiverses are going to collide with each other, and that's going to cause the end of all the universes to basically just end. So we have to stop that from happening. The Loki Kang created the TVA to stop variants and variant branches to come up, whereas this one said, all right, I'm going to go about it the other way. Loki Kang was preventative. I'm curative. I'm going to just destroy those timelines, right? I'm going to absolutely kill everybody in them to stop that from happening. So both are trying to do the same thing, just different ways around it. The question is, if this Kang is truly dead, which again, I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
What are we going to see with all these other Kangs? And you only have a limited number of movies. Like, I don't want to see so many Kangs. Like, I want to see one persistent narrative across, especially for the villain. That's what we saw with Thanos, right? Throughout all the different phases, Thanos' goal was the same, and his aims were the same, and his methodology was the same. It was consistent. Get Infinity Gems, destroy half the universe.
How do I reconcile Kang and Thanos? Is Thanos just a villain in one universe and Kang is multiversal?
Yes. Kang individual is from one universe, but as we saw in the mid-credits, there's thousands of Kangs.
Yeah.
From the thousands of different multiverses.
But Thanos was just in one universe, right?
So theoretically, yes.
The universe where there's the Earth that you and I live, he's from that universe, from a different planet.
In that MCU universe, yes, exactly.
But he's from that universe, right? Where there's, Ragnarok and all the other stuff, right? That's his universe, and he thinks the universe is overpopulated. He's going to get rid of half of that universe, right?
Yes. And that, remember, so when in Endgame, when Banner goes back to the Ancient One to take the Infinity Stone from her, she says, no, I can't give it to you because if I give it to you, this is going to create another branch in the universe, right? It will create another multiverse or another branch in the multiverse. And he said, no, well, I can stop that from happening by giving you back the stone at the point that I've taken it.
Does that mean, though, that there's another Thanos? There's thousands of other Thanoses?
Theoretically, that's exactly right. That there's thousands upon thousands or millions upon millions of other Thanoses.
Do you think we're going to see him?
But of course, because he's not a multiversal, from the comics, because he's not a multiversal bad guy.
Yeah.
And we've also seen a very good conclusion to that storyline.
Yeah.
We don't need to repeat that.
So what's on deck for? I was really looking forward to Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. I still think it was a very good sci-fi film. I don't think it was an Ant-Man film.
I don't think it was a great MCU movie.
Yeah, I agree. I really think if they would have called that something else, I would have loved it and been like, whoa, I want to see more of this,
Yeah.
What's next in MCU? Like, what are the other things coming out so that we can try to plan ahead and understand where this goes?
The next movie is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Okay.
That doesn't involve any form of multiverses at all. But I expect, because there are so few movies between now and the next two Avengers movies, I expect that there will be some form of mid-credit or end-credit sequence that refers to Kang some way, somehow. Because at some point, we're going to want to see Kang referred in every one of these movies now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what happened with Thanos in the first few phases as well. Is there was a reference to Thanos in every movie or thereabouts. Okay. Right? And if not Thanos directly, the Infinity Stones, which was what he was after. We should theoretically see that in the next few movies. I haven't confirmed this, but I read somewhere the Marvels movie, Captain Marvel 2,
Oh, yeah.
got pushed back to November. At the time of filming, we haven't confirmed this, but I've heard that they've delayed it till November. It is still coming out this year, but they've pushed it back. So instead of being a summer movie, I believe it's now going to be like a fall movie.
Wow, so that's not a lot. What about 2024? What else is on the slate?
We've got the new Captain America movie next year. We've got the Thunderbolts movie next year. And then we've got Blade next year.
Okay.
We've theoretically also got Deadpool 3 in 24.
Yeah.
And then in 25, we'll have Fantastic Four. We'll have
Avengers.
the Avengers
Yeah.
movie. And then in 2026, we'll have the other Avengers movie.
Oh, man.
So in terms of movies, I think we've only got like another 4 to 7 movies definitely coming out.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds like a lot, but in terms of introducing Kang to the wider MCU, it's actually not that many movies because you have to bank on Disney and Marvel that a lot of people are going to watch these movies, right? And frankly speaking, Marvel's slate has been relatively average to mediocre at best. There have been 1 or 2 programs and projects that I really liked. There have been 1 or 2 stinkers, and everything else in between has been very down the road average. I think Marvel has an uphill battle in terms of really getting people into the cinema and getting them excited for the next big bad.
What do you think, or what's your prediction for where Ant-Man Quantumania is going to finish in terms of box office? And maybe we need to put that in perspective by Ant-Man, the original Ant-Man, which was 2015? Yeah, July 2015, did about 520 million worldwide.
Okay.
Do you know what Ant-Man and the Wasp did? It did 622 worldwide.
I think this movie is going to do better.
More than... Do you think it's going to hit $1 billion?
No.
700 million?
I don't know if it's going to hit 700 million. Actually, I take that back. I think it might do the same as Ant-Man 1, and maybe it'll catch up to Ant-Man 2. I think that the lack of interest in the MCU by non-fans is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that it's going to have an uphill battle. Having said that, Friday numbers, $41 million worldwide.
It's not bad.
Today is Saturday. We've got Sunday, and then Monday is a day off in the U.S.
It's tonight. It's a Saturday numbers that are going to make this or not. Right?
Yeah, I think my expectation, or not expectation, my gut tells me that we're looking at between $100 to $150 million worldwide by the end of this weekend. I think that's pretty decent. And if it's 100 to 150 million, then I think it's got a good shot at getting to 500 overall.
What did you think at the time? The last 2 movies you and I have seen, we've called them bladderbusters, right? We saw
Babylon and Avatar.
Avatar and Babylon, both not just 3 hours, comfortably over 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like pushing marathon timing.
Yeah.
Ant-Man 1, I just looked at it. Original Ant-Man was 157. Ant-Man and the Wasp was 158. Very consistent. This one I heard was 210. Is that right?
Yeah, it was 2:02. 2 hours, 2 minutes, supposedly.
I have to say, I was really comfortable with that length.
Yep.
I could have maybe gone another 15 minutes, but I have to say, I thought that was the right timing because I was looking at my phone like several times to kind of see, gauging where I was on my popcorn tub. And I have to say, like, I thought that was a very 2 hours, 2 minutes. That was the right amount for this movie,
I don't think you need more. I really don't think you needed more. Even that 10, 15 minutes. I would rather say instead of adding 10, 15 minutes, I would have repurposed a few of the minutes in the film. One of the things that we learn is that Cassie's been given a suit in secret by Hank and Hope.
I mean,
Not a big fan of that idea, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
I really didn't think that was a good idea.
I agree. Can we take a tangent moment, like a parenting moment? You and I don't have kids, so maybe this is not the right people to be giving parenting advice, but come on, man. Like, what is wrong with you as a grandfather that you're giving a 15-year-old a suit like this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you're not even giving her a car. She can't even drive yet. You're giving her a suit where she can... I mean, it's totally nonsense, isn't it?
Again, I think what would have been great is if she stole the suit from Hope. I think if she had hacked into Hank's computers to figure out how to build this quantum tunneling device or whatever it was. And then while she was in there, she got the passcodes for this. And remember, and it would have been a great throwback to what we saw in the first movie, is if he kept a spare suit in like either an Altoids tin or in a safe, that the first one that we saw. And she steals that. And so she's really following her father's footsteps this way. I think that would have been brilliant.
I agree.
But for them to go behind the father's back and give her a suit without his knowledge, by the way, with Hope knowing what that means, right? Because she's fought against Thanos in that thing. She understands what the risks are. And for her to do that to a 15-year-old who's not her kid, that's problematic.
I agree. I mean, look, it doesn't make sense to get bent out of shape because it's a movie, but I have to say, like, if you're going to have me buy into this universe, I'm not sure why you're consistently doing things that are so against good judgment, you know?
Especially when Hope's big thing in the first movie was, why are you giving this rando stranger this suit? He's not prepared for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we saw that training montage in the first one. So she's given one lesson from her dad in the middle of a fight sequence in this movie, in that first act, and that's it. Oh my God. So two things that we've totally forgotten about that we have to talk about. Oh my God.
Bring them on.
I can't believe I forgot.
Bring them
First
on.
of all, it's a crime against humanity that they didn't even introduce. It was bad enough that they didn't do Michael Pena. But what, you couldn't even for that last scene when they were all having dinner together, have Judy Greer come on as the mom? Like, where's her actual mom in all of this?
Oh, wow.
And I love Judy Greer.
You know what? I'm happy you said that, because if you look at that table, there was a random woman at that table, and I'm like, who is that?
I missed that?
No, it 100% was not Judy Greer. It was just a random woman, and I had the same question, who is at this table?
Or can you imagine how awesome and hilarious it would be if they're fighting down in the quantum realm and Scott is giving Cassie lessons on how to fight, and up in the real world, Michael Pena is trying to stop Judy Greer from trying to see what's happening down there. And she finally muscles him out of the way. She used the telescope, sees Cassie fighting, and you hear in slow motion yelling through the radio, what are you doing to our daughter? That would have been hilarious, and it would have also addressed the fact that what the heck is going on here.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
There would have been, you know what? I'm rethinking this whole thing, but you're absolutely right that they should have worked this out somehow, that Michael Douglas and Pfeiffer and Scott and Evangeline got sucked into the quantum realm, right? And then it was up to Cassie, who may have unintentionally triggered this, that she had to use the suit and she had to go in then, right? And maybe then Judy Greer would have sold the house and Michael Pena had to shrink the house to steal the house, and Judy was surprised that the house was gone, and you could have made
something
so
like that.
many
that could have
good...
been so much. Look, and I get it. If they had done that, I wouldn't have minded if it's an extra 10, 20, 30 minutes longer. Yeah, that would have been fun, especially with the time dilation, with the slow motion, with the shrinking. That would have been funny, and again, given us a good reference point and anchor, right? Then we would understand, and then the stakes become all of a sudden local again. It's not just about Kang getting out of the quantum realm. It's also about making sure that Cassie lives through this, right? And that gives it a little bit of emotional heart. Right now, for your average MCU viewer, i.e. not you, not me, not fans who know who Kang are, your mom, my mom, the fans' mom, They have no emotional investment to Kang.
Let me say two things. First of all, the mom index, we're not even at the threshold.
It doesn't even apply.
My mom can't even remotely get her head around anything other than Ant-Man can make himself small. That's it. Now let's move on to proper people that may buy tickets. My brother, my sister, right?
Sure.
That's the real issue, which is they're smart people who are in generally pop culture, right? They're not psychopath like you and me. They're also not ignorant like my
highly
mom.
Functioning sociopaths. Thank you very much.
They are the people that you need to buy tickets or to watch this, right?
Absolutely.
And I have to say, my brother and sister would be totally lost by this movie. And that, I think, is the problem.
And even if your brother and sister dragged your mom into the cinema, she has no anchor.
No.
But she would understand a father and mother trying to save their daughter.
Correct.
That is an anchor point that transcends genre, right?
I'm thinking of like a funny segment. And if I could even get my mom's attention for 2 hours, have her watch this movie, and then write like when you're a kid, you'd write like a book report.
A book report?
Ask my mom to can you just summarize this movie in like a paragraph? I would struggle to actually understand what she would write, because I think she'd even be lost and be like, well, there's a different planet and Ant-Man went there with his girlfriend and maybe her dad, and then they fought this bad guy. The end. I think it would be like a 3rd grade book report. And so my mom's totally out of it, but I'm saying even my brother and sister, I think, with this movie are not enthusiastic about it, and even watching it, they've got no reference whatsoever. Even I'm struggling with Kang, right? Kang is a complicated character. There's a lot.
This is the thing, and that's why I didn't like the fact that they've killed him on screen twice now.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to introduce one bad guy, you need someone who's consistent.
Yeah.
You can't consistently have the same goal but different motivations or different methodologies across 7 different movies. It becomes a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah.
So that was the first problem that we forgot to talk about. But the second one, and this is really the elephant in the room, what did you think of MODOK?
Horrible.
This is, by the way, this is a deep, or I say deep cut. It's not really a deep cut. If you've read the comics, you know all about MODOK. I know all about MODOK.
If I'm Michael Pena, I go to MODOK's agent. I fire my agent. I go to his. If I'm him and Judy Greer, I'm like, go to our agents. What are you doing? How can this guy get just his big face in a movie, who adds no value whatsoever and is more annoying than anything, and we didn't get even 1 minute of screen time? You're fired,
so I
agent.
have very complicated feelings about MODOK. Okay? I loved MODOK in the comics. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was funny, and not funny like haha, but like just the concept is great.
I'm listening.
That's the first one. I loved the idea of them making Corey Stoll come back to become MODOK.
I'm in with that.
Conceptually, chef's kiss when they revealed that it was Corey Stoll. I was all in because it makes sense. At the end of the first movie, he gets shrunk down into the quantum realm. He's broken down. I loved that. Conceptually, brilliant.
But
okay? Execution,
terrible.
0 out of 10. Not even 0. -5 out of 10. So
could not have done it worse, could they?
I look at it this way. So the last time people will have seen MODOK on screen was Patton Oswalt did an animated show of MODOK, like a claymation animation. And it was funny. It was supposed to be a comedy, so they made him a comedic character. Okay? Fine, no issues with that. But the problem I have, and this is huge cognitive dissonance, Corey Stoll in the first movie, where he plays the Stinger or whatever his official title is, was a bad guy. And not just a bad guy, but like he was a really good villain. He was menacing.
Ruthless. Yeah.
He was ruthless. He was on that borderline from sociopathy to psychopathy, right? Like you could see him losing his mind. He was a bad guy. He threatened to kill Cassie.
Yeah.
He was going nuts. And then all of a sudden he becomes what's effectively comic relief in this movie. I didn't like that. I thought that was, you lost a lot of the, and if you wanted to go comic relief, if you really wanted to go comic relief, and this is me thinking way out of the box, what would have been weirder is if somehow T.I. or Michael Pena gets sucked in and gets brainwashed through a chip or something like that by Kang, and they convert them into MODOK. And then the turn from MODOK turning from the bad guy to the good guy works because he was already a good guy. He was brainwashed into being a bad guy. And then he sacrifices himself at the end of this movie. And I'm just trying to shoehorn ways of getting Michael Pena and T.I. into this movie. But what I didn't like was taking someone whose personality was that he was an effective villain in the first movie to becoming effectively a bumbling side character or, comic relief in the third movie, to the point where like he's like, oh, you're a bad guy. Oh, I'm a bad guy. And she's like, well, stop being a dick. What do you mean stop being a dick? Yeah, you just choose not to be a dick and that's it. And then all of a sudden he's a good guy now. It takes away so much of the value add of MODOK. It just, I got so frustrated with that. And I think this is almost James Gunnsian, which is to say that how do I inject humor into a situation that doesn't need humor? And if it lands, that's great. But if it doesn't, you get this. I think MODOK's execution was horrendous.
I totally agree. I didn't know the storybook character, but I have to say, and I kind of like the idea of Corey Stoll being added back.
Yeah.
But
great throwback.
Yeah. But I thought that it was just a farce to have the big head, not only the costume I thought was kind of bizarre.
The effects also looked bad, right?
It didn't look good at all. The
stretched face looked really bad. Like almost like we have 10 minutes to get this before it hits the cinema.
I looked at IMDb to make sure it was still him. I'm like, did they have someone else play the character? Like, it doesn't look like his face. I agree. The whole thing was just miserable. It added nothing. Don't they do any testing? Isn't there any audience testing?
As a bad guy, loved it. And I love the fact that they've basically made him a sidekick because it gives him room for growth to be a main villain in the future. But they introduced him in this movie. He was a terrible addition in the sense that personality was just completely off. And then they killed him off at the end.
And then he died. And then there's a little bit of like, there's not really closure. Like, did he actually die a hero? He says like, oh, we're like brothers. Absolutely not even remotely true that they were brothers. Like, they were arch enemies, like in the first one. Oh, I died an Avenger. I mean, like, the whole thing was just like,
that's what I mean by that farcical comedy, which doesn't make sense.
No.
It didn't land. If you wanted to make it comedic, you could have just been like, when he's trying to convince, when they were fighting in that first sequence, if they were fighting against each other, he could have been like, no, stop. If you stop now, I'll make you an honorary Avenger. And then a throwback at the end. I think that would have been funnier or at least more relevant. But this, I think execution, really poor. I get it. He's a mechanized organism designed only for killing. So theoretically, they can always introduce another MODOK in the future. But you kind of blew it with this one.
I have to say, the MCU used to be so tightly scripted and it used to be like airtight.
This is veering into early DC Universe days, which is how do we just get the maximum impact out of every character? Let's introduce anything and everything haphazardly without much thought. And that sounds like a bad criticism. And to some extent it is. Like, the MCU, Kevin Feige was famous for having, they used to always talk about it. We have basically 3 or 4 chalkboards, and we have it with like threads, and we have plot lines and elements, so we can see how every movie is connected and how the whole MCU is connected. Yeah. It's almost as if somebody went in there with a pair of scissors and cut all the threads, and we're just like, all right, Ant-Man 3, what are the characters that we have access to? Let's look at the Encyclopedia of Marvel characters. Oh yeah, this would be cool. This would be cool. This would be cool. Kang's the bad guy for phase 4, 5, and 6. No problem. Let's shoehorn him in there and let's just kind of go with it. What would have been great, and again, this is very much a formulaic way, because this is kind of what they did with the first Avengers movie, is if MODOK were the bad guy and he was working for Kang in the quantum realm. And we didn't see much of Kang in this movie. We just saw mostly MODOK, and they made MODOK a really bad guy. I think that would have been fine. I think that would have actually been better. Even though, and I say that fully accepting, Jonathan Majors' Kang was quite possibly the best part of this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy that we unpacked this. I was really, really excited about this movie, and I still think it was a good sci-fi movie. I think it was not a great Ant-Man movie, and all the things that I love about Ant-Man just don't apply to this movie. So in that sense, yes. I'm disappointed. I think this should have been called, Kang the Beginning or something like that. Would have been a more appropriate title, and you just saw cameos by Ant-Man, Wasp.
That would have been great, is if this movie was set in the past and we see a young Michelle Pfeiffer fighting against Kang. Yeah. I think that would have been a much better movie. I would, and then at the end, we have the cameo where you see them save her from the scene we saw in Ant-Man 2 is how this one ends in Ant-Man 3.
I mean, the problem is with the way that and I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp again in preparation for this movie. And that's why I know how rewatchable that movie is. The way that they found her, she was, remember, Michael Douglas just went in with like this little hover chopper. Yeah. Right? And he was avoiding like all these different like mitochondria or whatever they are, right? Chlorophyll things. And then she was just kind of like wandering in this big field of like fungus and mushrooms and flowers and stuff, right? It wasn't like he found her in the middle of a battle and she was like all full of like war paint and carrying a gun and like bruised up. She was like just fresh, like she was just like hanging out, like there was no time had lapsed, and she was just like walking in like the woods.
But she gave him the coordinates. Remember, that was the whole point of that, was that they contacted each other and she gave the coordinates. Yeah. So that's true. I get what you're saying in terms of tone, which is absolutely right. Is if she was a freedom fighter or a rebel, she didn't seem it. She seemed like a farmer who was out for a stroll. I get that. So tonally, you're absolutely right.
But you know what? You just made another point though. Do you really think that if she was this freedom fighter and she's like, first of all, she's like, no way, I'm not going to go home and see my family. I'll stay here for the rest of my life just to like thwart you, right? And then she spends the rest of her 30 years fighting him. And then, okay, I agree. She reaches out to her family to see if there's a rescue effort. Her husband comes and she's like, all right, peace out, freedom fighters.
Yeah, you'd think she'd come back and be like, all right, now I'm armed to the teeth. I've got the Avengers with me. We're going to fight this out.
Michael, meet me here, but bring guns and butter and lawyers, like it wouldn't just be like, hey guys, I really enjoyed, I created this problem. I appreciate you guys fighting shoulder to shoulder with me for 30 years. But look, my husband's waiting, so I'm out. Best of luck to you all. That's how it ended? No way.
You kind of got that illusion when they meet Bill Murray.
Yeah. You kind of got the illusion that everyone was a little bit angry with her, so that makes sense.
Pissed off that she kind of took off without saying anything.
Still.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It would have been a little bit better then if they would have thought about this. And like you said, the threads of MCU should have been stronger, where she would have said like, hey, did you bring the supplies, or did you bring this, or you've got to do this? And he was like, hey, there was no time, or I didn't know why you needed that. And,
my God. I mean, think of this is you've just had You just had the Black Panther movie released last year. You're about to have Guardians. You're about to have Captain America and Ms. Marvel. Can you imagine if at the end of this movie you see just Captain America's shield? Like in the quantum realm. Like she brought reinforcements to kind of help out with this, right? Or you don't even want to go that far? No problem. You see the logo for shield.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I'm bringing shield here to help with the restoration efforts or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I think it was called the GRO or GRA or whatever it was, in Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like the rescue efforts basically to help with the blip. Yeah. She brings supplies and things like that. It's the faintest of threads, but that's the things that you want, is to see the continuity between universes.
You needed that. I agree, because now it just did not seem natural the way that they went back to the quantum realm and how there were like multiple different, like even landscapes, right? There's one that was kind of like a very spacey city that had, as we mentioned, a lot of Star Wars similarity.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of like this desert, rock oasis where we saw her and Kang at the beginning. Then there was obviously
the mushroom forest
that they were walking through. And then there was something that kind of looked like it could be part of Avatar, with a stingray flying and dipping its toe into the river. And then there was the one where they had like this big battle scene that just looked like a bunch of like kind of like red cloud or red rock formations and stuff. Like, okay, I understand the quantum realm for being very small. It was very diverse, but it just seems so bizarre that there was many.
It's hard to get context.
Yeah.
That was the problem, was there was very limited context.
Yeah.
You don't need to have that context when we're talking about the Earth.
Yeah.
Because we understand what the Earth's geography is like.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
This, less so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because even like when you saw Bill Murray's character, I mean, he had a spaceship, right?
Yeah.
Which means he's kind of flying around the quantum realm somehow. The whole thing is just very bizarre.
Which, I mean, I guess we learn it's because he sided with Kang, right? So
yeah. I mean, it shows how big, for the quantum realm being small, it shows like how vast it really is, right? That there's so many different geographies, and there's so many like ways of transportation that you actually need a spaceship to get around in the quantum realm, which shows how small everybody is comparatively. What'd you think of the ants?
I thought that was, first of all, I wasn't shocked because I remember seeing the ants when they were falling from Earth to the quantum realm. Yeah. I remember seeing them fly with so I was like, okay, they've made it such an obvious part of it that clearly they're going to fall and play into this somehow. Yeah. This is what I meant by time being kind of as an excuse. The ants have been down there for 10,000s of years, apparently, right? Like they've set up their own technology, they've set up their own society. But for Hank and everybody else, they didn't fall into that trap of the time dilation. This is what I mean. It's like it felt a little inconsistent that for the ants, 10,000 years has passed, but for the humans, only a couple days has passed. And that's the other thing. When we finally see them go up into the real world, we don't know how much time has passed in the real world. Another way to do it is if they showed up in the real world, and all of a sudden you should see devastation from the other Kangs who have already started attacking, which leads up to the next movies.
I mean, it also could have been, you know what else you could have done? You could have done, because of time, maybe I guess you can't go back in time, but it would have been so funny if you'd see like Michael Pena when he's like a small kid, like him and T.I., like, and they're like little kids at the time. Like there's so many ways to...
Something silly. I totally agree.
Like
if you want to refer back to the other one, is you see the giant, at the end of the movie, we see the giant man suit falling apart against the building. Yeah. And, they're driving by and they see that happen. They're like, okay, we've come back a couple of years, right?
That would have been, oh man, that would have been cool, right?
Just because time is no longer a constraint in the Ant-Man series. Yeah. They could have had so many good throwbacks. Yeah. And we're not asking for major throwbacks. I'm not telling you to get Chris Evans to come back and do a Captain America cameo. But there could have been so many small throwbacks to the existing MCU that would have made the movie feel like it's a part of the MCU.
It's not warm. I agree. Some warmth is missing, or
Yeah.
the idea that there used to be people like me and you at MCU up all night laughing and coming up with these threads that you could stitch together, like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, what if we do this? I felt like there was kind of none of that.
Yeah.
Like Judy Greer and her husband, I can't remember what that dude's name is. He was so funny, right?
Oh, yeah.
Michael Pena, T.I., like even they had like a very short throwback to Agent Wu. Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Randall Park's character.
Oh,
You see him in that one scene
just
at the
one
beginning.
scene. Come on, like what? I mean, what's the point of doing a sequel if you're not going to? I agree. You don't want to like rehash the same thing. That it's not new and it's hard to keep things fresh. But like all of that was cut out. All of that was cut out.
You're right. You don't want to maybe make too much of an effort to make it like a rehash, but okay, you don't want to rehash the same scene? What would have been great is if they were at that outdoor cafe and he's teaching him card tricks.
Yeah.
That would have been such a cute, small throwback, right? But they didn't even do that.
Or, oh man, who's to say when they went back, they would have gone to the same like universe? They could have gone to a different universe, like you said, and they could have encountered all their old characters again. And it would have been like so confusing, right? Like, oh man, like when we got out of the quantum realm, we actually, who's to say you go back into the exact same universe? We're now in a different universe, right? And there's our doppelgangers. Now what are we going to do, you know?
Probably makes for more of a funny end credit sequence or maybe something that you can walk back real quick. If you want to make that as part of the main movie, that's probably a plot of its own.
That's
I take your point.
Yeah.
Like there's, again, because time and space is no longer a constraint and the rules don't apply, they could have done anything.
Because remember, oh man, if you think about, remember what we loved about Doctor Strange Mom? Remember when they did that scene where they went to all the different other universes and they kind of like encountered stuff? They could have done the exact same thing and they're like, oh man, this isn't the one. No, this isn't the one. No, this isn't the one.
But so the quantum realm doesn't exist in different universes. It exists in the same universe. So the problem is that they weren't able to cross multiverses with that. And that's fine. What would have been interesting is if they had done a similar concept, but through the quantum realm. Yeah. But anyway.
So overall, we both have the same, I think, rating, which is we think this is a very good movie. It's not a must-see in cinemas. Absolutely, you can wait for streaming. But if you're not a crazy... I mean, we've been talking about this for an hour and a half, and we could probably go on and talk about how many other like small issues in this. But if you're not fanatical about MCU the way that you and I are, it's a tough movie to fall in love with.
You're not going to hate yourself, and you're not going to walk out of the cinema thinking you wasted 2 hours.
No.
But at the same time, there may be other movies you want to see. There may be other things you want to do. And you can watch this definitely in the comfort of your own home. Look, the effects were great. The sound effects were fantastic. There is that element that you'll miss out watching it at home. But the overall movie itself doesn't justify sitting in the cinema just for the effects and the sound effects.
Yeah, I agree. And there's not a lot of spoilers to be.
Yeah, if you don't watch this, you're not missing out on anything in terms of you'll. This is the kickoff to the next phase.
Yeah.
This is where it starts.
Yeah.
So if there's going to be a movie in the MCU in this phase that you're going to miss, this is the one that you can comfortably miss without much impact as to the end game at the end of this saga.
Do you think that someone should have died? Not Kang. I mean, like Evangeline Lilly, Hank. Do you think someone should have died?
If anyone, I think it should have been Michelle Pfeiffer. Only because she abandoned them to leave. Kang wreaks havoc. The way she atones for that sin is by sacrificing herself in the effort of destroying Kang. That, at least thematically, would have worked. But otherwise, the stakes were never high enough for any of them to die.
See, the thing I learned from Rian Johnson's Star Wars, what I learned from him is that if you're not going to bring a big character back, you might as well get the benefit of killing them off and get like a powerful scene out of them, right? Leia, for example. Example number one. If you're not going to bring her back, you might as well kill her off. And I feel like that's what... Do we need an Ant-Man 4? I don't think we're going to have one, maybe. Are we going to see any of these characters? Do we really need to see Michael Douglas again in another MCU movie?
But that's it. That's what I mean. So if one of the quote-unquote parents had passed, the problem is that it's a cheap way of getting sympathy from audiences.
Better for him to die than MODOK. Keep MODOK alive, who's a better villain.
Totally agree.
And have Michael Douglas die. And Michelle Pfeiffer's like, I stayed here for 30 years. You came back and rescued me. You've always been with me. You've always been loyal. I'm so sorry of what I put you through. Thank you for saving us with the ants and flying the ship and all the other things. Give him his crowning achievement. Let him die a hero,
Maybe.
But this is what I'm missing from this movie is the MCU staff brainstorming these ideas all night long and saying
I wouldn't give to sit in that writer's room, not just for this movie, but just in terms of the MCU writer's room overall.
Because all those ideas that we've just thrown out here in an hour and 35 minutes,
I think have been better.
Yeah. And I'm really surprised that none of them were, which isn't to say that we've got all the answers, but I mean, a lot of those, it's not clear, had they been thought of, and if they were thought of, why weren't they adopted? Because they seem to be better, and they don't seem to require dramatic amount of filming in exotic locations with crazy special effects and stuff. It's just kind of a continuation of what they've done,
I fully take also on board, that hindsight is 20/20. It's very easy for us to criticize after the fact. And that's kind of our job anyway. But we're not the ones being paid millions of bucks to write movies.
And unlike a standalone movie like Babylon, the whole point of these movies is for fan engagement and continuous engagement and to link them with other movies, right? Yeah. So for Babylon, I can see where they say, look, guys, hindsight's 20/20. This is our movie. This is our vision. MCU is, in a way, public property, if you want me to see 31 movies and you want me to watch all your shows and you want me to go to Comic-Con and you want me to buy and subscribe and something, you're also going to have to acknowledge that I'm going to have some strong feelings about the plots that you set up, right?
Yep, totally.
Babylon, you don't care.
That sword cuts both ways. You're right.
Babylon, you don't care. Babylon, Ethan, go buy your ticket, watch it, like it, don't like it, doesn't matter to us. That's all we're interested in, MCU, we're trying to engage you and keep you loving these characters so that you come back again and again and again. Have we exhausted Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania?
Probably. I mean, look, us. We can kind of gab about all of these movies ad nauseum, but ultimately, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, otherwise known as Ant-Man 3.
Ant-Man 3.
I think we're both saying the same thing. It's a wait for streaming.
Yep.
You're not going to kick yourself for watching it in the cinema, but at the same time, you're not really gaining much by watching it in the cinema.
Okay. What do we say the next thing is coming out from Marvel?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy in May. Okay.
Yeah.
2 more months and we'll have GOG Volume 3.
That's right.
All
right. So, guys, if you have any thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, do you agree with us? Do you think Evangeline Lilly got shafted?
She did.
Do you miss Michael Pena?
I do.
Do you miss Judy Greer?
I do.
Leave us a comment below this video. Why don't you tweet at us at FNS Podcast or DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. Or if you're old school, email us aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com. Reach out to us. Let us know. Happy to engage with you on this.
Indeed. Pete, thank you for a great episode. Listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.